This video is going to teach you how to quit pharmacy in just 3 steps. It basically takes the last 6 years of me quitting pharmacy, and I'm going to put it into one killer guide, which is right here. Hopefully by the end of this video, it'll be a lot easier for you to quit pharmacy than it was for me, and it'll help you avoid all the mistakes I made while quitting of myself. And even if you aren't in pharmacy, this whole guide can teach you how to quit your 6-figure career. One more thing, don't be too distracted by me looking at my phone. There's a lot of notes and I didn't have my teleprompter. So please bear with me. Let's get on to the guide though. So I know this feeling all too well, where you spend years working to land your dream career and dream job, only to realize it's not something that you want anymore. When I tell people about my pharmacy story, people are always scratch their heads. They're just like, wait, why did you quit? You spent over 7 years, $180K in student loans, and many, many more years just practicing. And chances are, if you're watching this video, you can probably relate to it. What people didn't see was that I was miserable every single day. I was gaining weight and I was stressed as hell, just dreading my commute and career as a pharmacist. Gotta say, hopium is one hell of a drug. So this video is for that person who is in my shoes. And today I want to share the 3 biggest lessons I learned when I quit my 6-figure job. And I want to share what I would do differently if I were to start over all from scratch. This is going to be my full guide. And by the end of this video, you'll know the answer of these 3 questions. 1, why would anyone want to leave a 6-figure job like pharmacy? 2, what does starting over really look like? And 3, how do you pivot from going from a high-paying job to something completely new without regretting it? So I really just want to lay out the steps to make it feel less like taking the leap of faith and to be a little bit more strategic, because your boy kind of quit without a plan and went through all the hardships. So hopefully you don't have to. And before you roll your eyes and you're like, oh my God, Kevin, you're gonna just tell me to buy a guru course or sell me a guru course or live at my mom's house to save money, you can relax. I don't want to waste your time with spewing all the other generic cliche advice that every other YouTube guru is spitting out. My goal for this video is to do something really, really new and talk about things that no one else talks about. And hey, for the skeptics out there who are like, who is this bald Asian guy? See, I'm bald. I've gone down this path already of quitting pharmacy, and check this. I have Ali Abdal as a client for high ticket sales. I built an amazing YouTube team and make passive income even with a very small YouTube channel. And I've met really, really cool people over the years like Vanessa Lau, Chris Do, Alex and Layla Hormozi, Sean Cannell, and my friend Mike Kim at different events. And I even bought this expensive ass Tumi bag to prep for my Asia trip this year because I'm going to live that digital nomad life. The Tumi bag is the biggest flex of the year. Anyways, let's kind of dive in. By the way, I have timestamps for everything, so if you want to skip to a different section, feel free to. But I highly recommend watching everything just so that you have full context on everything. And also, please don't take my word as the only way. There's a lot of different ways to do this, and I'm just sharing how I would do it over again. So yeah, just hopefully it'll inspire new ideas for you. So before we begin, you're probably like, why would anyone want to quit their 6-figure career? Or if you actually really thought about quitting before, you're probably wondering, what's really holding you back from quitting? How do I know if I'm making the right decision or making a smart move by quitting as well? I don't have all the answers, but I actually went through this, and I can share my perspective. So I remember back in the day when I first started pharmacy, I wanted to quit just 3 months into it. It was really, really crazy. My friends were like, dude, you're crazy. You just started. How do you hate it so much? I was just like, I don't know. It's the people. It feels very overwhelming. I mean, there were parts I really enjoyed, like the customer service part, learning about the medications and all that, and the science aspect. But in general, it just felt so stressful, and I should have listened to my gut at that point. Don't get me wrong, it had its moments where it hit the feels, where it felt worth it, you know, where I love helping others. I love building those relationships with my patients. And I really love serving people who really appreciated us. But there's 3 things that I didn't really love. And one, it was the stress of the toxic work environment. So the phone's always ringing, not having enough help. Those corporate bosses, oh my God. I hope they rot in hell, by the way. Dealing with the general public, it's really, really difficult because there's a lack of empathy and stuff. And I realized I didn't elaborate too much on my life in pharmacy, but have you ever heard about shooting the messenger? That would always happen. Like if someone's meds weren't covered, I would get blamed on. If there was no refills, I'd get yelled at. If there was something I could not fill because it was a controlled substance, they would shoot the messenger. And it really took an emotional toll on me. And then it was very monotonous, meaning it was the same routine over and over and over again. And the most important thing was like, I didn't feel like I was growing. You know, after learning the basics of pharmacy and stuff, I would see the same problems and I didn't feel like I was growing as a person, and it was actually getting quite boring. And I remember at this time, I was telling my preceptors when I first started pharmacy and later when I was a full-blown pharmacist, talking to supervisors and all that, how I felt. But my pharmacists, my coworkers, everyone around me told me to stay. They promised me that, Kevin, it would get so much better, right? I clung on to the hope that, you know, moving up, climbing up the corporate ladder would really, really help. So I went from a pharmacy technician to a pharmacist and then to a pharmacy supervisor too. And then something happened. This was like one of the major pivoting points of where I really, really questioned this career. My pharmacy supervisor actually unalived himself. Obviously, I don't know what he was going through, but I remember at work, he was always really, really happy. He always was the first one to help us, and he always lended a hand. He was like any of the other supervisors I really, really had at the time. But I couldn't help but ask this question in my mind, and I got this from Ramit Sethi. He was like, if you want to see your future, look 10 years down the line at the people around you. And I really asked myself, was like, do I even want the life of the people that are 10 years ahead of me? Did I really want to be like them? Did I want to be like my supervisor? I just realized that I didn't want to be like my coworkers who are depressed and unhappy and complaining all the time. They felt stuck because they had a lot of bills for their student debt, mortgage, and kids. I didn't want to be that floater pharmacist. Oh my God, there's something about floater pharmacists, if you don't know, if you're not in the industry, they always come in with that depressing brown paper lunch bag. They would always eat in the corner and it looked like they had the life beaten the out of them. And then there was the asshole manager who I didn't want to be like, who literally, you know, at the time he fired me and accused me of working on my YouTube channel at work. And this was after I told him my dad was in the hospital, who later passed away. This guy's a soul. I hope he still burns in hell. This was kind of a wake-up call. You know, I realized that the safe path that was laid out for me isn't just outdated. It's actually fundamentally flawed. I was playing a game that wasn't really aligned to me. And this is the problem with the old model. Let's talk about it more. So let's talk about what the old model is and the problem of this old model. So you think about the traditional advice we're told, and it goes something like this. Secure a six-figure job, sink your money into investments that really are liabilities like houses and get us into more debt. Ramit Sethi is a really great resource for this. If your job sucks, suck it up, even if it feels very soul-sucking. Commit to the grind for 30 plus years, hoping for a comfortable retirement. And the problem is that this plan isn't built out for long-term sustainability. And instead of a formula for like freedom and retirement, this is a formula for something we call the golden handcuffs. This is kind of like the place where you're very, very comfortable and you don't want to leave due to the discomfort of change, of something better. Your life is really, really good. Or maybe you've reached a point where you just have so many liabilities that you're kind of bound to your six-figure career. By the way, it's not only tied to pharmacy. I've seen people in consulting and all these other industries get tied in it too. And this is also something that we don't consider about retirement. As I'm getting older, I'm actually at the point where I attend a lot more funerals than I do weddings or baby showers or anything like that. There's this whole concept that I actually found out preparing for this video called leisure sickness, where people work their whole lives, hit retirement, but then die something like 2 months later from leisure sickness. This is also known as paradise syndrome. Even though I have no science or studies to prove this, and in my mind, it's probably due to lack of purpose. And that is the flaw of the old model. It assumes that time in our younger years is equal to our later years. 2, we have unlimited time, which we don't. And 3, true freedom is doing nothing. So it's time to embrace the new approach. So let's talk about the new model that boomers don't know about. What we truly want is control over our time, our finances, and fulfillment, aka our purpose. Because let's be very real, when was the last time you heard, oh my God, does anyone actually say like, hey, I want to miss out on saying goodbye to mom, dad, and my grandparents on their deathbed? 2, I love being capped at my job because of corporate politics. 3, I feel so fulfilled using all my potential just to be told that all I do is count pills all day and put them in a bottle. Okay, That last one was specifically for my pharmacist, but you get the picture. No one says these things whatsoever. And I remember back in the day when I used to express like how I didn't like these things, like people would talk a lot of about me. They would say like, oh, you're just complaining, you're so entitled. But deep down inside, I think it's more important to accept this truth because everyone felt it, even those talkers too. But hey, I could be wrong. And I think it's important not to deny this truth. What I learned from this experience is that there will be people in your life who will tell you that you're entitled, who tell you that you're spoiled, who tell you you have it so good. And they will tell you that you just need to suck it up or that you're lazy. But in fact, a lot of times these are just projections of other people. It's what they think they're capable of, and they're just projecting on you. And I would argue it's actually the opposite of laziness because it takes focus to figure out what you want. It takes discipline and work to get it. So if you feel like the way I do, there's nothing wrong with wanting more or wanting to control your life. And just because someone is projecting their image of what they think is possible in the world, it doesn't make their perspective true. But this isn't to say that people are really malicious in our life. This perspective is just simply outdated. If we think our parents, some of our friends, a lot of different people around us, something that they're probably not considering is that we live in a digital age. Think about the power of AI that has just spawned out of nowhere, the power of personal brands, the whole creator economy. And so how do we really tap into this? Well, we focus on a few things. We learn new skills. We solve problems using these skills in exchange for money. And then 3, we invest into cash flow assets. But the hard part is that there's so many possibilities for each of these categories. For example, if you want to generate assets, you can invest into dividend stocks, real estates, Airbnbs. For high income skills, you can do a remote job or freelancing like high ticket closing, digital marketing, copywriting, all these different things. And for a third thing, you can create products or services or start a business or even buy a business too. All these routes are legit, and all these routes can lead to financial stability. And when we say financial stability, what do we really mean? It comes in the form of monthly cash flow, or MRR for business-minded people. Because if we really think about it, why do we go to a job? It's because we're reliant on that cash flow, on that weekly check, that income every single month, and it's predictable. And notice when something is predictable, and if we can do it for relatively low effort, then we're pretty much retired already. I mean, that's the whole goal of retirement. In the old model, what they do is they sit on a whole bunch of cash, they invest that money, and they make sure that their burn rate is a lot less than the interest rate on their investments. And so this is the first lesson. If you want to quit your job, then you need to focus on things like cash flow so that you can buy back your time and buy back your energy. With things like cash flow, you won't worry about survival. You won't worry about where you're eating or sleeping. You can just focus on growing and diversifying your income streams. And so the rest of this guide will be focused on setting you on this path. And there will be 3 steps of how to do this efficiently. So let's go over the first step. Date different income streams. So why did I use the word date? You know, like probably if you're watching this video, you've probably been in a relationship before. I wish this was the case, but in most cases, you don't marry the first person you date. It's important to kind of find out what you like, what you don't like, blah, 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 blah. I'm not a dating guru. I'm single as f, so I have no idea what I'm talking about. When I think about all the opportunities to make money, it's important to see what you like and what you don't like, and specifically with your strengths and weaknesses. There's this great book called The Unfair Advantage by Hassan Kuba, and it talks about this concept of unfair advantages. But the only way to find out your unfair advantage is just try different things. And if you go on YouTube or Facebook, you'll probably be targeted with all these ads for the new hype business model. For example, there's things like faceless YouTube channels, digital marketing, copywriting, affiliate marketing, drop shipping, lead generation agency, Amazon FBA, Airbnbs, real estate with subject to or seller finance, M&A, which is buying and selling businesses, and starting a YouTube channel. There's so many more. So if you're a beginner like me, then you probably found this like so overwhelming. And the even harder part is that all these business models technically work. And so it really introduces the problem of how do I know which business model is really right for me? So when I wanted to quit pharmacy, one of the biggest mistakes I made was thinking that I would like a business model without even trying it. I spent almost every single weekend at my favorite LA coffee shop back in the day, Cafe Bene. Definitely not my favorite shop anymore. But I would read books like The $100 Startup and countless other books about side hustles and how to start businesses and stuff. I bought a lot, and I'm telling you, a lot of online courses out there before they were the cool thing. This is way before Skillshare and all those things. And even though the learning was super, super fun for me, the problem was that I had no plan on trying and testing out these ideas. I was just consuming all the time. And really what I was doing was I was wasting money and just mentally masturbating instead of building real skills. A similar analogy might be like me in my 20s telling myself to read all these like pickup and dating books, which is super cringe these days. But really, the best way to kind of learn these things is just go out there and start dating. Or even worse, watching all those jujitsu videos on YouTube and never going to practice. The best learning lessons, honestly, are the things that we actually do. And when I did pick a business model like YouTube or copywriting or affiliate marketing, even worse, I had an all or nothing mentality. I would tell myself, I need to do affiliate marketing. I must make the same amount before I quit my job or I'll die trying. God, I was such a 50 Cent fan back in the day, holy. But this was like a really big mistake because that's like trying to marry someone without going on a date. I remember hating this process and how much stress and pressure it kind of put on me just to figure things out, because I didn't realize that this expectation to be perfect at this new thing that I was trying to do that I wasn't even sure that I even liked was causing me to fight, flight, or freeze a lot of the time. And you might be like, yo, what did these look like? Well, fighting looked like working until exhaustion all the time. Flight was just be like, dude, I don't want to work right now. I want to party in K-Town every single weekend at my favorite clubs, which I did a lot. Freeze was procrastination. If I do nothing, maybe the problem will disappear, right? Which never ever happens. The problem is I went for years believing that I was hustling toward my goal because I was still learning. I was still like reading books, but in reality, I was just spinning my wheels. And I wish I could have quit much sooner if I put these things into practice with what I'm about to tell you. If I were to go back in time and tell myself some advice, really start with small gigs and use them to test your ideas without quitting your job right away. So something I think about is setting up test projects. And through every single test project, you are learning new skills, you are learning new lessons, experiences, you are reducing something that Alex Hormozi calls the ignorance tax, which is the tax that you have to pay. You have to pay money, energy, time into learning something new. And rather than look at something like this as an ultimatum, as like we have to make this work, some things that really helped me was like, what if we looked at this like playing a game? What if we looked at this as an experiment? What if we looked at this like dating and testing different income vehicles to see what we liked and didn't like? And if I asked these questions, as corny as it sounds, I think I would have been okay at making mistakes and not being perfect. Because at the end of the day, it's really the practice of doing where you learn the most. Giving ourselves a test project. For example, let's say if we want to do YouTube, maybe the first proof of concept, the test milestone that we're trying to do is to create 10 videos. And this is where the term proof of concept comes into play. It's basically a fancy term to see if your idea actually has potential. Because the truth is, there is no way that you can know, can I do this? Do I like this? And is this something that I see myself doing for the long term, like 5-10 years, just from reading books or just from talking to people? We actually have to do it. And so, for example, let's say if you want to start a YouTube channel, maybe a proof of concept would be to shoot 10 videos and see how you like it. And at that point, at the 10 video mark, if you do like it, then you can keep on going and set a new milestone. If you don't like it, then you can just quit and do something else, which is okay. You have a start and end deadline that you're trying to hit. A smarter way to do proof of concept if you want to do a YouTube channel is like find a YouTuber that you actually like and needs help. Second thing is apply for contract work, like a part-time or a remote job, even if it's admin work. And you can commit to this for 3 months and see if you like it. You can do this all while keeping your job. And the benefit here is now you get paid to learn. In order to do the job, hopefully that YouTuber is willing to teach you along the way, and you can learn all the small details of the business model to see if you like it before you quit your job in general. And while you're there, let's say if you do a part-time or freelance job, something that I would do is like, one, take notes on the skills and people needed to run the business. This includes like the different departments, because like every single business has a sales department, a marketing department, a fulfillment department. They don't say these things, but We have to be able to sell our idea, collect money, find those right people, and actually deliver on our promises. The second thing is make friends in the industry, not only to build out your network, but just to seek out trusted advisors for the future when you do make your leap. And then 3, notice your energy. Notice if the business model drains or energizes you. And I still do this right now. Like right now, literally, I'm the unofficial head of sales for Ali Abdaal. What's going on?
How bizarre. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. How's it going?
But I'm learning all these tangential skills of like hiring a YouTube team, which I started doing this year. I'm noticing all the nuances and the lessons that they learned in their business, and I'm reducing my ignorance tax. And with the rise of more creator businesses, you can use this for any skill that you want to learn. So if you want to learn copywriting, digital marketing, real estate, and even high ticket closing. This is all without quitting your job, by the way. And I think there's another benefit that no one ever talks about. By having another stream of income, like a part-time job or something, it really builds the proof of concept of the you money mindset. I know that Dan Lok used to talk about this back in the day and he's kind of cringe, but it really builds this mindset where you don't need a job or boss because you can find work elsewhere, and it gives you a lot of leverage. That is something important not to ignore. But okay, let's say you're building this proof of concept. What is the second step of getting you closer to quitting your 6-figure career? Hire experts while keeping your 9-to-5. So the problem is, whether you like it or not, no one teaches you how to build and manage teams. And so one of the worst pieces of advice I've ever gotten in my life was to do by myself. Like if we think about it, I always had to do exams by myself. We always had to do like studying by ourselves. There were group projects, but come on, really? Like no one really liked meeting up and doing these projects together. And so back when I was doing pharmacy, I was making about $150K per year. But school conditioning taught me to do everything by myself. And so given what I knew when I started the YouTube channel, I would be in the back of the pharmacy during my lunch breaks editing my videos. When I got off, I would go to a coffee shop or boba joint to work on more videos, whether it was scripting, editing more. And then of course, you know, being in LA, which is home of the worst traffic in the world, it's horrible. I would have to wake up really early to beat LA traffic and also work on my videos. And then I would wonder, dude, why am I so tired? Why am I so burnt out? Why don't I have the energy to do things? And so looking back on it, I was like, damn, I was like really stupid. This could have been so much easier. And something I wish I did was learn to hire the right people so I could focus on higher leverage activities in the business. Kind of like what people call the needle movers. So if I were to go back in time, I would really advise myself to learn the skill of hiring the right people or hire expert help. And it doesn't mean that you have to have a bunch of employees or anything like that, but learning how to like kind of hire people like contractors can really help a lot. And there's really 2 types of experts that you want to hire for. One is for advisory. So you're leveraging the experience of someone else. It could be hiring a business coach, an advisor, or consultant to reduce your ignorance tax. They can leverage their experience to help you out and make things go way smoother. The second thing that you can hire for is operations or fulfillment. So it might be hiring contractors to help you with the business so you can focus on the highest leverage activities. So for me right now, some of the hires I make for this YouTube channel is paying power hours with a YouTube strategist to help me come up with new ideas for this channel. 2, maybe joining a mastermind to leverage the mind of others. I have my own creator mastermind, but I also join other people's masterminds to learn. And then 3, it's hiring specialists to help me with my things like thumbnails, video editing, and YouTube strategy. These are typically contractors, but they're experts in their own domain. For example, I can't use Photoshop for like I'm really bad. I've tried to invest a lot of skill in it, but I'm just not good at it. And I think it's okay, you know, that's why we hire these things. But instead of spending all these times trying to fiddle around with Photoshop, I'm using that time to design the systems to make life easier. I'm also building new products. I'm also trying to think of like, how do I systemize my content a lot better while keeping the personal aspect? And even if you don't want to start a business, a very valuable thing is to hire someone who's more knowledgeable to write your resume, to do the research, to help coach you through certain things. Something that we don't realize is that we have a high ignorance tax when we're doing something new. Some people think about like, oh, if I'm not making money with this, I can't spend it. And that's the thing. We're thinking about it wrong. We need to think about it as an investment. And here's the thing we don't realize. When things cost money, it makes sure that we don't slack off. It makes sure that we're committed because there's consequences if we don't make this work out. Some people may disagree with me, but here's the truth. Would people still attend college classes if it didn't cost any money? Probably not. So one of the most overrated things is, in my opinion, personal productivity. There's kind of like, productivity is important, but at the end of the day, even if you optimize your day, you still only have 24 hours in the day. And so something I think about is we need to focus on team efficiency. So remember my advice to work with someone like a YouTuber or take a part-time role or something? There's a few reasons why I recommended this, but ultimately it kind of reduces your ignorance tax, helps you understand the operations of the business, the essential functions of the business and all that. And the third area where you can hire is networking. What I found was by hiring people who are a lot more skilled than me and a lot more focused on a task, it allows me to focus on things like marketing, so attracting new clients, and sales, creating new offers and solutions for people. What I find is that by hiring people, it really helps ease kind of that stress that I was talking about earlier, because someone is always working on the business at the end of the day. Sure, there might be a little bit more effort of managing people, but that is a skill that we have to learn and that I find is one of the most powerful skills ever. And so if I hire these positions, like hiring a video editor and hiring a thumbnail strategist while I was a pharmacist, it'll get to the point where you're creating MRR or monthly recurring revenue, but want to leave. And so when you hit your cash flow number, what's the next step? Test your exit plan. So most people will tell you that you need about 6 to 12 months of runway before quitting your job. But here's the problem. There's this Mike Tyson quote that I love. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And what no one tells you is you get more anxious as you deplete that runway. So for me, I've always been pretty responsible in terms of my finances. Throughout pharmacy, I was investing in my Roth IRAs and all that sort of stuff. And even though I invested way more than my friends, when I quit pharmacy, my cash flow went to zero all of a sudden. And at first things were okay. They were great. I actually had a lot of money in the bank and I loved the freedom of not going into work. And also I needed a break because I was just burnt out as I mean, being in a career that you don't love for many, many years, sometimes you just need rest. And I didn't go balling or anything like that. But every single time I would look at my bank account, and even though I had money in there, I was always in the back of my head, how much longer can this actually last? And as that number went down, I started to kind of panic mentally. I wasn't ready for the ups and downs and the fluctuations. I was so used to just a stable check week in, week out, right? And that's something that I had to learn. As I started to panic, I would put pressure on myself, make bad decisions sometimes. And when I look at some bad decisions, there's 4 things that come to mind. Where 1, I would buy bad solutions, meaning I would buy more online courses when I really needed contractors. I really needed help instead. The second thing was overworking myself and burning myself out. I felt like, man, since I'm not making any money, I need to work harder. I need to work longer. Third thing, even if I wanted to take a break, I wouldn't be able to enjoy going out with my friends or anything like that. And 4, I took on bad contracts, bad clients. I've had clients use my work and not pay me. The thing is, the red flags are there, but it's kind of like that hot ABG in my 20s. I used to ignore all the red flags. Something I learned really quickly is when I don't put myself in a position of desperation or scarcity or survival, you tend to make better decisions. You can play the game for a lot longer versus thinking about the short term. And so something that I wish I did instead was really test my exit plan. And so if you have something like a job, something I would highly consider is taking a leave of absence and stress testing your MRR. At this point, you should have a business that is generating some monthly recurring revenue. You should be hiring people. So really stress testing it by doing a leave of absence is a very, very low risk type of thing. And something I always think about is you can always get another job, but let's say if you really like where you're working at, there's nothing wrong with taking a leave of absence. And so what people don't know is that most employers, they will allow a leave of absence. And hell, if you can stack up vacation hours, I would use that up as well. There's a concept of the black swan, or kind of a threat that you never really anticipate. And one of the things that we don't anticipate is what we talked about earlier, this concept of the ignorance tax. The truth is sometimes we lose clients, sometimes market changes will happen, this whole disruption with AI these days. It's really affecting a lot of the traditional contractor roles, not completely, but I can outsource some video editing to AI. I can make music with AI. I can do graphic design with AI. There's quite a bit of possibilities out there. But by giving ourselves a little wiggle room, it gives us permission to be hey, it's okay to suck because good decisions are a learned skill. There's this really great quote by Naval Ravikant, one of my favorite quotes. Stay out of things that could cause you to lose all your capital and all your savings. Don't gamble on everything in one go. Instead, take rationally optimistic bets with big upsides. Not gonna lie, there are big benefits of going all in, burning your ships. You'll hear these stories a lot. Like if I were to go back in time and test my exit strategy, my primary focus should be on learning and seeing if I like the lifestyle at all. Because some people, like some of my good friends, are really smart. They have a business that is generating MRR, but the ups and downs and just like the client management you have to deal with sometimes if you're doing a freelance or agency business wasn't really cool with them. And so this is a new lifestyle that you have to learn to adapt to as well. And you know, back when I was really naive, I used to say like, anybody can start a business. Why not start a business? But the more I kind of dive into this, the more I realize entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Part of the job means being okay with the ups and downs in income and revenue fluctuations, managing expectations. Like this isn't a 9-to-5 job. Like we have to let go of certain aspects of the health insurance benefits and paying taxes and the security of a 9-to-5. It is different. It's an exchange, right? Part of the job means strategically taking on more risk, when to kind of double down and when not to. It almost feels like a poker game. There's this also great quote, all profits are derived from risk, meaning the more risk that you take, the more profit. But at the same time, if you risk everything, you can't play the game anymore. Part of the job also means like not judging yourself based on the value of your bank account. No matter if your bank account is high or low, it's important not to judge yourself on those things. And then also part of the job means emotionally regulating yourself so that you can make better decisions. This last one is really important to me. It's near and dear to my heart. I think I've done the most personal development just going through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. If it wasn't for the ups and downs, I probably never would have considered things like therapy. And I see a lot of these things where 90% of my entrepreneur friends, they're all into mindset, they're into spirituality, they're into mental health. One of the three, if not three of the three. But in case you don't like this, the worst case scenario, if you take a leave of absence or LOA, you can always go back to your job because you didn't quit. You just took a leave of absence, and that's okay. But let's say you kind of make it through the fire. You decide not to go back to your job. What do you do with your time? Do you just chill on the beach, sip on Mai Tais in Thailand, and live the digital nomad life? Well, there's this last thing that we need to talk about. The goal isn't to quit and do nothing. So something I noticed is that a lot of younger people who are on the path of fire try to retire early and do nothing. And since quitting pharmacy, I've been very fortunate to talk to a lot of people who have retired early, and many of them find themselves bored and purposeless and almost in sometimes an existential crisis where they're just like, well, what do I do with my life now? And like I mentioned earlier, I've had a few friends pass away shortly after early retirement. And that's when I kind of realized, like for me personally, that the aim isn't to make money to do nothing, but really to find work that I love and really to find something that's in alignment with my purpose. I know it's kind of woo-woo, but there's this great quote by Naval Ravikant where he says it perfectly. Play long-term games with long-term people. And that's why I've dedicated my whole life toward YouTube. Not only do I get to meet cool creator friends, but I also get to learn about the cool business models within YouTube with my clients like Ali Abdaal and all that. And so if you are curious about how I make my money as a creator, buy my Guru course. I'm just kidding. I actually did a video on how I broke down my top 5 income streams in my own creator business. Otherwise, you can check out this other video that the Algo Gods deem fit for you. See you next time. Peace, mother people. Bye.